Thank you. I'll just give it another minute and see if anybody else is going to join us, and then we'll get rolling. Did everybody get their email, obviously with the Zoom link, but also the worksheet on the Zoom link there as well, or the email link? Did everybody get that okay?
Yep, I got it.
Perfect. Thank you for confirming. Okay. I'm going to share my screen.
Hey Kyle, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. How are you guys?
Good.
Give me the tech challenge person a minute here. Can you guys see something that says Fit Life Challenge Nutrition, or just me?
We did a second ago and it just went off.
Oh, okay.
There, we can see it there. There it is.
There it is.
Yep, see
Beauty.
it.
All right, let me get this back up here. Present. Oh, and then it's gone again. What the heck's happening here? This is what happens when you crack backs for a living and you don't deal with computers at all. All right, should be popping up shortly for you guys. Hopefully. Can you guys see that there? Fit Life Challenge Nutrition?
Yes, I see it.
Awesome. Okay, sweet. We'll roll with that. See if I can get this to get a little bit bigger here, and then if not, no, it doesn't look like it. Okay. Regardless, we will get rolling. I'm just going to make sure before I start here, there's no one else here waiting to get in. I can't see the presentation and the chat or anything here at the same time. So if there is anybody that has a question or anybody who needs to get admitted to the webinar, if you guys can just flag that to me, and I'll pause and I'll let them in, and then I'll flip over to the presentation now. All right, so this presentation, obviously we're doing the Fit Life Challenge. It's all about nutrition. Obviously I'm Kyle. Hopefully most of you guys know me, and hopefully I know most of you. Obviously the chiropractor working with LP, as well as one of our nutrition coaches. Before I get rolling, just to confirm again, everybody can hear me and see me okay?
Yep.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thanks for confirming. I think that sounded like Paul by the sounds of things.
That's right.
Beauty. All right. So you will need a worksheet that would have been emailed to you. That should be with the Zoom link that you received. Now, you don't have to complete it during the presentation, but if you want to, it's certainly it's helpful. If you want to do it after the fact, you are welcome to as well, okay? Our goals for today is to outline what is nutrition. We're going to talk about macronutrients. If you were at my talk at LP on nutrition a little about a month or so ago, some of this might be a little repeat for you, but I'm going to do my best to make sure that it's fun and that it is enjoyable for everybody and that you're learning a lot, okay? Now, the most important thing that we're going to talk about today is the metabolism, how to calculate your metabolism, because I want to make sure you guys take something away from this presentation. If you can take away at least that, what your metabolism is, how to calculate how many calories you burn, and a rough idea of what your goals should be for protein, then I think that we're having a good impression on everybody and you're learning something. I was joking around with somebody earlier that the Fit Life Challenge for me is kind of like mini LP University, because you have all these different people from different disciplines kind of talking their shop and giving you guys some information. So I'm super excited to be a part of it. And if there are any questions, please write them down, make note of them, and I will get to everything from at the end of the presentation, and then we will go from there, okay? Now, the first thing we're going to go over is what is nutrition. For me, it's more than just eating your veggies. It's the science of how food impacts your body's health, your recovery, and your performance goals. There are four main components. We have our fueling. So meeting our basic body functions, keeping the lights on in the body. We have our building materials. So that is looking at food and nutrition as a means of building and repairing our body's tissues and organs and everything else. We have the regulation component, which is controlling hormones, immune function, and more. So there's a lot of different things it does. But the fifth component that I often emphasize and think is important to bring about is the enjoyment factor. Food should be fun. And it's a part of our culture. It's a part of our society. I really think it's something that we need to be thinking about and be enjoying, as well as thinking about it as fuel. Okay. Now, I got to flip back to the main presentation or the main thing here for one quick second, guys. Admit. Welcome, Chris.
Progress.
Okay. Beautiful. All right. So macronutrients. Macronutrients are the big stuff. We're talking proteins, carbs, and fats. The main function of your proteins is to build and repair tissue. Carbohydrates is for energy. We need those to fuel our workouts and also the brain. And our fats are important for supporting our hormone health and long-term energy stores. So all three things are really, really important. It's just a matter of breaking it down and figuring out how much you need of each one. In terms of protein, there's a lot of numbers out there, and it's kind of the hot, sexy topic in nutrition lately, but figuring out how much protein you need is important. In general, in the bolded top corner there, you'll see it says daily target is 0.8 to 1.1 grams per pound of body weight. That's in an ideal world, and we can really simplify that just by saying it's about a gram per pound of body weight. So if someone weighs 150 pounds and they're going to LP, the range that they need to eat is anywhere between 120 and 165 grams of protein, which can be a lot. It's a large, large range. If you were in the presentation I did before, you'll see that there's this gray chart. And really everything you want to focus on is in the box to the left. We have our lean sources like our chicken breast, our turkey breast, our egg whites, protein powders. We really want to focus our protein efforts in that category. If you draw your attention to the far right, you'll see there's things like bacon, sausage, hot dogs, chicken wings. It goes without saying that those are the lower end quality proteins that we would like to avoid in most cases, simply because they're not as pure or not as good a source of protein. I think we can all agree that a hot dog is not as good for you as a chicken breast. But you really want to focus your effort on everything in the left-hand column for the most part, okay? In terms of protein, I showed this graphic before for some people who were at the last presentation, and this is what 165 grams of protein looks like. It's a fair amount. We have chicken, salmon, eggs, cottage cheese, a whey protein supplement, Greek yogurt, and this is just for one day. This is what 165 grams of protein looks like. Now, this might be more than what some of you need. This might be less than what some of you need, and that's where the figuring out how much that you need to support your body and your goals is very, very important, okay? But just as a rough idea, and you can see here, you're focusing on really good qualities and sources. We have chicken breast, we have Atlantic salmon, we have eggs, we have a whole bunch of other good quality foods there as well. Carbohydrates, I won't get too much into carbs today because it's a complex topic, but in general, try to keep things as whole foods and try to keep things healthy. Sweet potatoes, regular potatoes, vegetables, oats, whole grain items. Try to stay away from obviously the cookies, the candies, the cakes, all that kind of stuff as well. But the amount of carbohydrates you need is going to vary greatly depending on the person. I have ultra marathoners I work with who are consuming 400 or 500 grams of carbohydrates a day. And then I have people who are consuming significantly less, 100 to 150 grams of carbohydrates a day. So for most people, the carbohydrate goal or target is very specific on activity demands, and it's very difficult to figure that out just by having a conversation with the group. So that carbohydrate number is going to be a little bit more dependent on your specific goals. However, like the protein chart that I showed you previously, if you aim for everything in the left-hand column versus the right-hand column, you're generally going to be in good shape. The only issue I take with this chart is the middle column. I would put fruit and berries and things like that in the left-hand column. I always use the analogy of, when was the last time you knew someone who became obese from eating too many bananas? I don't really think that bananas and fruits and stuff, yes, they're higher in sugar, they're higher in carbohydrates, but I think the quality of that matters. So I do think that fruits are a very okay source of carbs. The main things there in that middle column people want to be careful with are your fruit juices, as well as things like your honey, maple syrups, sugars, and things like that as well. So that's the one thing that I will put a caveat with, okay? Now, in terms of fats, fats, they need to be healthy fats for the most part. You want to have things like avocados, you want to have olive oils, you want to have fatty fish. Again, same conversation, trying to stay away from the processed baked goods and the other foods as well, okay? We're going to talk a little bit about nutrition cycles. And a nutrition cycle is a specific focus for a period of time where you're looking to change your body shape and your body physique. There's 5 main kinds of nutrition cycles, in my opinion. We have maintenance, cutting, bulking, recomposition, and reverse diet. To put them simply, maintenance means you are consuming the same, you are looking the same, you're not looking to actively gain or lose weight. Cutting would be, well, you want to lose weight, mostly in the terms of fat. Bulking would be you want to put on weight, mostly in the terms of muscle. A recomposition kind of combines cycle 2 and 3, where you're actually trying to gain muscle and lose fat at the same time. And then number 5 is a reverse diet, which is where you're trying to build back your metabolism after losing a bunch of weight, which I'll touch on in a second. In general, if you're like, hey man, I really, really, really want to make a change and I have time to commit to either gaining muscle or losing fat or whatever your goal may be, I generally recommend that you spend at least 10 weeks doing that, because it's going to take time for you to get into a rhythm, into a cycle. Your body doesn't really operate day to day. It operates week to week, month to month. That's where you're really going to see the biggest changes. So it's really important to commit to change, embrace it, and adopt it as a new lifestyle for a period of time. That's usually when I see people do their best. A reverse diet, again, I mentioned that previously. It's kind of a weird name, reverse diet. It's what we do at the end of a fat loss phase. So for clients that I've worked with who have gone from, I don't know, 190 pounds to 160 pounds, and now we need to make sure that they are maintaining their progress without losing it, this is where a reverse diet comes into play. This is a period of controlled increase in calories after a deficit. The reason why we do this is when you're in a deficit for a very long time, your metabolism can drop. And if your metabolism drops, that's not super good, because then when you go back to maintaining what you were eating before, it might lead to weight gain and it might lead to an increase in body fat again. So we really want to make sure that while you're doing this program and you're trying to maybe lose some body fat or weight, that it goes really well for you after. For me, that's the most important part. If you lose 20 pounds, but you gain it all back really quickly, that doesn't work out well and it's not a successful program. And that's where the reverse diet comes into play. Is it's a nice way for you to gradually reintegrate back to maintenance without undoing all of the hard work that you've just done, essentially. Now we're going to hit our activity time. So if you guys have your nutrition workshop sheets that were sent out in the email, we're going to go through this now, and there's a few steps, okay? Everyone's doing okay so far? Any like questions or concerns or anything like that at this point?
I put a question in there in the chat there.
Oh,
but now I'll just ask you.
Yeah, I just saw it there actually, Paul.
Yeah, you mentioned like I've been eating eggs fairly regularly.
Yep.
And with the yolk, and I see that you mentioned just egg whites. Is it very damaging to be having the yolk? Should I go to just egg whites, or how severe is that?
That's a great question. Eggs got a bad rap a little while ago for being too high in fat and cholesterol. There's nothing wrong with the whole egg. It's just very difficult for some people to hit their total protein intake without going over on their fat if they're only relying on eggs. So an egg has approximately like 6 or 7 grams of protein and about 5 or 6 grams of fat. So almost 1 to 1. If you need to hit a substantial more protein in your day than fats, it does make it challenging to hit that target without going totally over on your fats, if that makes sense.
Makes sense to me.
So egg whites are a great supplement personally. And for a lot of my clients I work with, I have them do some sort of like a egg white scramble for breakfast, where it's 1 or 2 whole eggs with a bunch of egg whites, and that you get the whole egg component, the good cholesterol, the fat, and the flavor, but then you also get a significant bump in protein, which is often really, really helpful for people because, again, if you have 3 or 4 whole eggs, you're probably going to get more fat than you need in relationship to the amount of protein that you're getting.
That's
So,
a great, yeah, that's a good tip. So how do you buy the egg whites? You just buy it in like a carton type thing, or?
Yeah,
or
buddy,
you,
I'm a big Kirkland
yeah.
guy. So I go to Costco and I stock up on those little cartons of egg whites, and I got my trusty food scale, and I weigh them out, and that's kind of how I operate. But yeah, it's really convenient, and it's easier than don't do the crack the egg and get rid of the yolk and keep the egg white method. That's not good.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. So we'll move on to our activity. If everybody has their sheets, if you don't have your sheet, then you can certainly work on it later. There's 3 main parts to our activity. We're going to calculate your BMR, which is your metabolism. We're going to calculate your TDEE, which is standing for total daily energy expenditure. And then thirdly, we're going to calculate your protein goal. Okay. We can still see everything on the presentation, okay? Yeah. Awesome. The energy and metabolism section here to explain things into detail. Your total daily energy expenditure, or your TDEE. This is the total number of calories that you are going to burn in your body across all functions in a day. This includes your metabolism, your digestion, your physical activity, and then the movement you do, like standing in the grocery store or fidgeting around like I'm doing right now. So it takes everything into consideration. All right. If you look at the pie chart on the presentation, you'll notice that the blue takes up the biggest amount. The blue is your basal metabolic rate. That's your metabolism. So 70% of the calories you burn in a day is just keeping the lights on, supplying your organs, your brain, your muscle tissue. So a lot of people get into this situation where they try to like outwork a bad diet through exercise. And it's a very bad idea because most of the calories you are going to burn are just through your metabolism. And then the other slice of that pie chart, which is the green, that is called NEAT. Stands for non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Long story short, it's the calories you burn, again, standing in line at the grocery store, fidgeting, walking the dog, stuff like that. So in general, almost 90% of the calories you burn in a day comes from your metabolism and your daily functions of life. That last 10% comes from exercise and comes from breaking down food, digestion. So when we think about calories and weight gain or weight loss, most of what happens in a day regardless of exercise. I'm not saying exercise isn't important. It's very, very, very important for building muscle, which burns calories and supports your body. But from a strictly energy expenditure perspective, a lot of what you burn in a day is just going to come from your daily functions. Okay. So if you are in a calorie deficit, and a lot of people who I'm working with in a calorie deficit for weight loss, they get worried if they can't hit their workout. And really at the end of the day, it's most important for us to make sure that you're sticking to your targets, because a missed workout here and there won't be the end of the world for you from a math perspective. Okay. So the first step one on our worksheets here is we're going to calculate our basal metabolic rate or our metabolism. I'm going to do this with you guys right now. So we'll take a few minutes and go through this, and I'll explain it because this looks like a horrible flashback from grade 12 calculus. And I struggled with that, and I'm not going to make anybody go through that. We remember bed mass, whatever that stands for math equations. I'm kidding. You're going to need 3 pieces of data here as per that top column in your chart, okay? You're going to need your weight in kilograms, your height in centimeters, and your age in years. If you don't know those numbers, that's okay. I have some little conversions at the bottom. If you know your weight in pounds, you can divide that by 2.2, and that will give you your weight in kilograms. If you need your height in centimeters, you find out how many inches tall you are, and then you multiply that by 2.54, and then that will give you an answer for the number of centimeters tall you are. And then your age, we should hopefully all know our age roughly. So I'm going to take a minute and fill this out. If anybody has questions, shout them out so I can hear you, okay? I'll also be on after the presentation. If anybody has any questions specifically that they'd like to go over, I'm happy to chat until the Jays start playing, and then I'm out of here. I'm kidding.
I'm all good for the calculation, Kyle, but does anybody else have that that square at the bottom of their screen with the icon, the person icon?
Oh, let me see if I can move that. Is that better?
Oh, that's way better. Thank
Okay,
you.
thanks. That's I'm running, my laptop died, so I'm running off my iPad here, and that's I guess just the only little Zoom icon, I guess. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
That's better position there.
Way better.
Okay, perfect.
Thanks.
No problem. Sorry about that. Does anybody care to share their math and see what number they got for their BMR, aka their metabolism?
I don't mind sharing. I got mine to be like 997.
Seems a little bit low to me.
Does it?
Potentially. It depends on the person. And that's where, again, going through this with someone who is a coach or anybody can just double check the numbers and make sure it makes sense. This is a rough idea to see where your metabolism is. It doesn't take all things into consideration, but it's a good baseline. So we'll call it roughly 1,000. Okay. Mine came out to 1,600. Okay. And I'm about 72 kilos, 74 kilos, about 170-ish centimeters tall, and I'm 33 years old. When I plug everything in there, I get roughly 1,600 calories for my equation. So dependent on age, dependent on gender, dependent on weight and height, everybody's will be different. My initial thought is maybe that's a little bit low, but again, I could be wrong there. And that's where all the other activity stuff comes into play. Okay.
Remember, I'm short and I'm twice your age, Kyle.
That's why I said it could be accurate, it could be inaccurate. But if you want, we can also go over that later as well. Thanks for sharing, by the way. Okay, the next part. So we are going to now look at your TDEE, which is step 2. That stands again for total daily energy expenditure. So reminder, your metabolism or your BMR, if you laid on the couch all day long and just binge watch Netflix, that BMR, that's the number of calories that you're going to burn laying there surviving. Now, what we need to do is figure out how many calories you burn in a day to figure out roughly what you need to eat to maintain or base your other goals off of. And that's where this step 2 comes into play. So your TDEE, your total calories burned, is equivalent to your metabolism, which you just calculated, plus your digestion, plus your exercise. Okay. So we can roughly estimate it using an activity multiplier, which you'll find in step 2 of your worksheet. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 categories ranging from sedentary to extremely active. Now, if I'm going to use myself as a situation here, I'm going to look at that and go, I have a fairly physical job because I'm on my feet all day long. I exercise at least once every day, sometimes twice. In fact, most times it's twice. So I'm going to put myself in the very active to extremely active category. And it might be a range for people. So if you're unsure of what category you belong to, I'm happy to maybe weigh in on that. But I will say for some people I've worked with in the past, if you're an LP member and you're going to the gym 3 days a week for a strength workout, let's say Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and you see, okay, in the light exercise category, it says 1 to 3 days a week of exercise, or the moderate, it says 3 to 5 days a week. Well, both of those have 3 days a week in there. So where do I belong? I usually say to people, err on the side of the lower option. So if you're going to LP Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or 3 days a week, I'm going to consider that light activity, even though we all know the workouts are not light at all. But for the sake of this multiplier, that's where I'm going to put that in. If you say that you're going to LP and training 5 days a week, then I'm going to say you're in the moderately active category. So again, it depends on you as a person. It depends on what workouts you're going to. Some workouts are harder than others, like a high rocks versus maybe a Wednesday strength workout, different amount of calories burned, different amount of intensity. So you'll have a little subjectivity with that. And you can also do the calculation for 2 different categories and see where that range is. So for me, again, I'm going to put myself, let's say, in the extremely active category. I'm going to take my number I found before, that BMR, which was for me 1600. And then I'm going to multiply that by 1.9. That number that I get there, that is the exact, or I'll say rough, actually, the rough number of calories that I will be burning in a day to sustain my life and to sustain my function. Okay. Any questions about that? Has anybody run their numbers and wants to share what they got?
I did mine, Kyle. 1546.
1546. And can I ask Janice what category you put yourself into?
I did the moderately active.
And can I ask if do you mind sharing what your weekly exercise routine looks like?
I go every day to the gym.
Every day.
Plus,
I love it.
well, I mean, Monday to Friday.
I love it.
Plus,
Monday to Friday plus?
we were, and running in there too, every so often doing some running.
Yes, I heard you did a run recently. I heard it went pretty well.
Yes.
Amazing. Congrats.
Very well. Yeah.
So your number was 15.
1546.
15. Let's call it 1550. So
Okay.
that number there for you, Janice, that's the number between exercise and metabolism that you would need to eat in a day in calories to just maintain where you're at right now. So if you're like, hey, Kyle, I want to put on 5 pounds of muscle, then we're like, okay, Janice, you need to hit that and then some. And really, that's where this next step will come into play. And that next step here is figuring out your goals. Are you comfortable where you're at? Do you want to lose body fat? Do you want to gain muscle? It really depends on what your goals are as a person. So if you were to take that 1550 and go, amazing, I want to maintain where I'm at. I'm running really good. I'm enjoying my workouts. I'm living healthy. Perfect. That's the number you need to hit from a calorie perspective to maintain your current body physique and body size. If you wanted to gain muscle, then there's a multiplier for that. So you would take your 1550 and times it by 1.1 or 1.15, and that would give you a small calorie surplus, which would allow your body to put on muscle much faster. In the opposite direction, if you wanted to lose weight, you would multiply by 0.8 or 0.85 to put you into a deficit, so that you would be burning more calories than you're actually consuming to lose fat. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. And you can use that calculation, those fat loss, maintenance, or muscle gain calculations there to figure out, again, a rough idea of where you should be and what you should be consuming in a day to meet your needs. If there's no questions on that, we'll move on to the protein side of things. And this is very interesting because everyone's talking about protein, got to get more protein. And it's kind of true. We've always undershot protein historically when it comes to nutrition and body composition. I mentioned earlier, your main goal is that you want to be hitting about 1 gram per pound of body weight in a day for your protein goal. It depends. There's a big range. So if you look at that calculation of 0.8 to 1.1 grams of protein per pound of body weight, you're going to get a reference range. So it depends on your goals. If you're like, hey, I want to put on muscle mass, I want to gain a ton of weight, then perfect. You're going to go to the high end. If you're someone who's maybe not training as much, doesn't eat as much protein, you'll go to the lower end there. So the last part of our worksheet here, step 4, is to calculate your protein target. So once you have already calculated your metabolism, you've already calculated your total daily energy expenditure, you've just figured out what do you need to adjust, if anything, based off your specific goals. The last thing I want you to do is come up with a protein target. For me, I make it simple. I'm going to aim for that 1 gram per pound of body weight. I weigh 160 pounds. I'm going to say, let's hit 160 grams of protein. That's what I'm going to write down. Okay. Any questions about that? Pretty straightforward. Nutrient timing for exercise. Again, this is very person specific. So if you have specific questions about you and your performance, save them for the end, and I'll go through ad nauseum whatever you need answered. The pre-workout focus here is carbs. You really need carbs before you pre-workout because that is what's going to give you quick energy. Okay. The average LP member training for, let's say, high rocks or a Tuesday, Thursday class, something with a lot of intensity, more carbs are going to be needed on those conditioning days, or if you're going for a run, something where you're really getting your heart rate up. 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrates before is a great place to start. Okay. An example of that might be 100 grams of cooked rice, a banana, a rice cake, or a sports drink like a Gatorade or something. Referencing back to the charts we made earlier, I always stress to people, try to go for good quality whole foods first before reaching for things like the Gatorade or the sugary stuff. Try a banana and a rice cake. Don't go just to a Gatorade or a pop or something like that just because it also has the right amount of carbs you need, because it's just better to focus on eating whole foods and good quality foods from a nutrient and a vitamin and a minerals perspective as well. Now, when do you consume these foods before you work out? There's a chart here you can reference. In general, if you're going to have time, if you're a person who works out at 4:30 class, you can certainly eat an hour or two before you train to give your body the energy and the fuel it needs. You can have a full meal, balanced meal, protein, complex carbohydrates like rice, potato, something like that, and some veggies. If you're like me and you work out in the morning at 5 a.m., you may not have that luxury, and you might have to have something that's quicker acting and faster. So you might have something less than 30 minutes before you work out, like a sports drink, or again, it says a rice cake and honey. My go-to before I work out at LP is I usually have an English muffin with a bit of peanut butter, and I have at least a banana, sometimes a banana and a half in addition to that. That's my kind of pre-workout that I go for before a class. I usually eat that about 45 minutes ahead of time. If I had more time, I would definitely aim for something like a chicken, rice or potato, and a veg, something more balanced, but I just don't have that luxury of time, being that I'm working out really early in the morning. So when you pre-workout and what you eat will depend on your schedule a lot, is all I'm trying to say. Try to avoid heavy fats or fiber too close to training. So don't have a ton of avocado or a ton of oils and stuff like that, because that will slow your digestion and your body will be too busy breaking that down as opposed to fueling your workouts. Post-workout gets a little bit more complicated. There is another lovely formula here. I have that on the second page of your worksheet as well. It's also on the screen there for you. So there's an exact science of what you want to consume from a protein target and a carb target after your workout. You can estimate it as well. I mean, if you're hitting 30 grams of protein, roughly, we'll say 25 to 30 grams of protein, and about 30 to 60 grams of carbs after you work out, that's probably a good start for most people at LP. Again, it is highly dependent on your goals. If you're training for a marathon, you're definitely going to need more carbs than that after you finish a long workout. If you're really trying to build muscle mass, you're probably going to need more protein than that as well. And the time windows are different. You know, for women in general, you need to be consuming this food within an hour after working out to maximize that muscle protein building window after workout. For men, it's a little bit longer. I think it's upwards of 2 hours, but I still just emphasize to people, try to get this food in, this 30 grams of protein and let's say 30 grams of carbs or more. Try to get that in the first hour after finishing your workout. And that means in your stomach digesting at that point. That doesn't mean that you're starting eating at an hour after your workout. I want that already in, consumed, and digesting. That way it's actually getting to work right away. I also wanted to touch on some supplements today, because supplements is another hot topic that people have a lot of questions about. The two main supplements I'm going to talk about here are protein powder and creatine. In terms of protein powder, there are many different kinds. There's whey protein, casein protein, beef, pea, rice, soy. Really, at the end of the day here, selection of your protein supplement is going to depend on your dietary preferences and your restrictions in your nutrition if you have any. Whey protein is more efficient per gram for building and repairing muscle. Plant sources can be very, very effective when you get the total protein and you use a high quality blend. Some plant sources, they combine multiple different sources to make sure you're getting all of the essential components in that source of protein. And there's nothing wrong with plant sources, but whey protein is usually more effective in terms of cost and in terms of nutrient profile. It really just depends on what you've got going on. If you can't have whey protein and you have a dietary restriction and you have to have plant sources, it's totally great. It's a great option. Some people find the plant sources are better on their digestion, and I work with some people who find the opposite. This is where some trial and error comes into play. Protein powders historically have had a bad rap. People say they're not a good source, they're artificial, not as good as whole food. I actually disagree with that a lot. I really think protein powders are exceptional. I think they are a complete source of protein. They're convenient, they encourage consistency, and they're made and created in a way that it's like a perfect protein source. You're not missing much, at least from a whey perspective. So I really, really think that a protein powder is a great option for most people, especially if you're looking at the numbers that we calculated for your protein and you're like, oh my gosh, how am I going to hit that number? The protein powders are really convenient, they're really easy, and it is just a great option for you, especially if you're on the go, or if you're like, I can't eat within an hour after my workout. Protein shake is a great thing to bring with you to LP, and then you can have that very quickly. Creatine is another supplement that's getting a lot of recognition in the world right now. It's a naturally occurring compound, creatine. It's found in your muscles and in your brain tissue. Your body does make some creatine naturally, and you also get it from foods like red meat and fish. But supplementing increases your muscle stores beyond what your diet can do alone, and there's a ton of great research supporting it. It's very safe, and there's undeniable benefits. In the 90s and early 2000s, everyone was kind of on the fence about creatine. They talked about it causing hair loss, and they talked about it not being good for your kidneys and stuff like that. You know what? Unless you have a really bad kidney condition, I think creatine isn't that of a danger for that population. And there's no research to show it does hair loss or any of these other myths that you may have read online about creatine. It's safe. It helps with strength and power. It helps with muscle growth and recovery. And there's more and more research now showing it has a emphasis or an impact on cognitive support. They're looking at creatine supplementation in people with neural degenerative conditions like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and things like that. And they're actually showing that creatine has a positive impact in other things as well. So I really think creatine is a supplement that most people could be using and should be using. There's a few different sources. All you have to remember is creatine, and I have it in quotes here, monohydrate. There are other forms of creatine, but this is the one that's the best bang for your buck. It's the most widely studied, and it's just the most widely available. So if you are concerned about creatine or which one to use, go for a creatine monohydrate. I use the MyoPrime. I think it's called MyoPrime from ATP Labs at LP. This one here. This one has creatine in it, as well as vitamin D, which I love because I get my vitamin D and my creatine together. But I would recommend this one. It's really good. It's a high quality source. So if you're not using creatine already, I would encourage you to consider it. Okay, if you need more support, if you didn't know, myself, Michelle, and Coach Ree from the gym, we do offer one-on-one coaching, whether it's fat loss, body composition, athletic performance, et cetera, et cetera. We have a couple different plans and options for people. It really just depends on your goals, you as a person, and how much support and structure you are looking for. We have a very flexible plan, and then we have a highly structured meal plan where you would basically have everything programmed in terms of breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, etc. So if you do need more support with nutrition, you can reach out to me or Michelle or Coach Reed, and we can give you an answer to any question that you do need and see if that's a good option for you to work with a coach one-on-one. I want to give a summary of everything today, very hopefully concisely, is structure your days around eating enough protein. Try to really focus on hitting your protein goal. And that's where step 5 of your worksheet comes into play. It's a little blurry, sorry. Step 5 here of your worksheet is planning out your daily intake of protein. Using that number you had before, try to break that down into a day and figure out how much do you need to eat at a given meal or a given snack or time, and see if that stacks up evenly throughout the day. You want to try to keep it even if you can, but just see how that distributes. So try to put together a rough idea of what that day of protein looks like for you. So summary number 1 point is structure your days around your protein. Make sure you're getting enough in. Number 2 is maybe have a body goal, whether it's in terms of fat loss or muscle building or maintenance. Maybe try tracking your nutrients for a period of time. Track your macronutrients with MyFitnessPal. See if you're actually hitting your protein. See if you're hitting carbs. Maybe see what your pre-workout, your usual pre-workout or post-workout nutrition looks like, and map it out and see if it matches the numbers that you kind of came across today between the calculations you made and the information that I provided. So I think that'd be another cool activity for you guys to maybe consider doing on your own time as well. So try to hit your protein, try to spend some time tracking and being mindful of what you're actually eating. And then number 3 is just try to make sure that food is simple and that you're focusing on whole foods. My biggest thing I tell people when it comes to like food selection is if you leave it out on the counter and it rots, it's probably good for you. Anything like meats, vegetables, fruits, things like that, if they sit out long enough, they're going to spoil, they're going to go bad. If you think about things that are ultra shelf stable, cookies, cakes, pastries, granola bars, whatever, that stuff is probably the thing you don't want to be reaching for as much. So in general, if it sits out on the counter and it rots, it's probably a good idea that that is something that is decent for you to consume. Okay, so try to simplify your food selection. Maybe that helps a little bit as well. That is all the structured content I have for you guys tonight. I hope it was educational. I hope it was informative and that you at least calculated your metabolism, your total daily energy expenditure, and have an idea of your protein intake. That was the primary targets for us here tonight. I'm happy to spend as much time as needed to go over any questions on those calculations. So if people have questions and they want to go over anything specific, let me know and I'll be here.
Very good presentation, Kyle.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys joining for sure. Anybody else have any specific questions? And it doesn't have to be anything that we talked about. It could be anything about nutrition related in general with food content or anything else.
Do you have much of an opinion on protein bars and things like that?
Great question, Paul. Um, I do have some thoughts on that. Yeah, so protein bars can be great. It just depends on the kind of protein bar and the composition of the protein bar in terms of what food is into it otherwise. The biggest concern I see with protein bars is they're loaded with fillers and fats, which makes it sometimes challenging for people to hit their total nutrition goal, because you might have 20, 25 grams of protein in a protein bar, but it might have like 15 or 20 or 25 grams of fat. So it's kind of the same thing as the egg that we mentioned earlier, where it can be a great source of protein, but sometimes you're gonna go over on the fat content, and it might make it a bit tricky for you to hit your daily calorie goals or your macronutrient goals. In general, if it means having a protein bar versus having anything else that's low in protein, I'm probably going to opt for protein bars. That being said, I don't really use them or program them much for the clients I work with. I tend to focus on just having like a whey protein shake and then having a banana or something else with it. Just again, focusing on whole foods or focusing on a specific breakdown of foods. So, in short, protein bars could be good. In general, I try to stay away from them for most people. But if it's between that and a Subway sandwich or something, I'm going to say do the protein bar. Good question, though. Thanks. Anybody else
Thank you.
questions?
How about number of scoops of protein? Like I have 4 scoops of protein a day to be
That's
able.
a lot.
I know, but like I have a very unique diet
Yes.
in
So
general, so it's hard to hit my needs without
are
that.
you vegetarian or vegan?
I'm vegan and gluten free.
Okay, so you are one of the I'll say the zebras where it's you have to really be very, very mindful of these things because sometimes it's challenging for sure in those situations to get enough protein in. And most people, if they told me they're eating or consuming 4 scoops of protein in a day, I would say that there's probably other avenues we should be looking at to get that protein in. In your case, it might be necessary because of the other food options that are not available to you. I am certainly not an expert at all in vegan cuisine. And I have worked with a couple people in the past who have a lot of dietary restrictions on that regard. And I've had people consume 3 or 4 scoops of like a vegan or a plant-based protein a day because they're not able to hit their protein target otherwise. For someone like yourself, Sheena, I would probably say, that reference range I gave earlier of like 0.8 to 1.1 grams of protein per pound of body weight. For someone like yourself, I would put you at the lower end of that most likely, even if you were trying to gain muscle and things like that, just simply out of the fact that that way it reduces the total burden of how much protein you have to have in a day. Again, it's a range, right? It's not an exact specific number. And if you're hitting at the lower end of that range, it's still within range. So I would probably drop your protein, depending on what you're doing. I would drop it to like the lower end of that reference range, and maybe that makes it easier for you to hit your protein goal with like whole foods or regular foods. But if that's not possible and you need multiple scoops of a protein powder a day, I wouldn't be opposed to it, especially if you're like, hey, I really want to put on some muscle mass, then it might be necessary.
Okay, makes sense. Thanks.
Good question, and you definitely a big challenge for sure.
Yeah.
No other questions, things to go over? Okay. Um, again, I'm always available. You can always send me an email, kyle@lpfit.ca, if there's something specific you want to go over. If you have your worksheet finalized, I think you'll have to have that as part of your Fit Life Challenge targets. But if you have your numbers finalized, your basal metabolic rate, your energy expenditure, and your protein goal, and you want to send it to me, I'm more than happy to review it. If you email me at kyle@lpfit.ca, then I can take a look and see what those numbers are and see what makes sense. And I'm happy to have a conversation about how you can hit your protein goal if that's a challenge, or tweaking your pre-workout or post-workout nutrition. So once you have those numbers and those calculations, I'm more than happy to spend some time and go over everything with you guys, one-on-one or individually, if that works out well. But yeah, I'm happy to do that in addition to. I hope everything was thorough. I hope everything was explained well tonight for you guys, and you guys are at least leaving with some key piece of information. I don't want to keep you too long, but if there are any other questions, I'll be hanging out here for another minute. Otherwise, I'll certainly talk to you guys later. And thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you, Kyle.
No worries. Thanks, guys.
So I couldn't hear you there. I was mixing up a protein shake. See you, buddy.
That was a good one. Hey, Paul, thanks for the question, man. And in terms of eggs, just to give some clarity there,
Yeah.
eggs are a really great source of good cholesterol. There's good cholesterol and there's bad cholesterol. And the eggs are a really great source of that good cholesterol, which is important for us to get for sure. I find that a lot of times if I program someone to have 100 and let's say 60 grams of protein in a day and 50 some odd grams of fat, they're going to blow over their fat before they hit their protein target with the egg. So that's why the egg white thing comes into play. But definitely keep eating the eggs, like in general, like they're really, really healthy for you. They're great for a lot of other benefits for hormone health and for heart health and everything else. So not to shame eggs at all, just to give another point of view.
Well, yeah, because I would normally have, like, I'll come home at lunch and have 4 with a piece of toast.
Okay.
And I may do a Greek yogurt and some berries as well.
Okay.
So that's kind of, and I'll do that maybe 3-4 times a week.
Okay.
And that's got the yolk and the white. So that your idea to go from maybe having 2 full eggs and supplementing it with egg whites would be a good way to kind of balance that.
Yeah, I would totally think that'd be helpful. And you might not even need the Greek yogurt there in that case, because you might be getting so much more protein. If you have more than like 40, I mean, you can absorb more, but like beyond 40 grams of protein in a meal, it's kind of like, what's the point? You should just save that for another meal. So if you're having 2 eggs and egg whites and toast, you might be close to like 30, depends on the amount of egg whites, but you might be close to like 30, 35 grams of protein there. So you may not actually need the Greek yogurt as well. I would say, hey, man, let's save that for like a pre-bed snack to get that nice casein protein that's in the milk product. That's a slow digesting option. Let's have you do that before bed, so you're nice and satisfied overnight and your muscles are still building overnight. So just something to think about. If you do supplement with the egg whites based off how much you have, you may not need the Greek yogurt option for lunch as well, because the egg whites are a lot of volume. They're quite filling. They got a lot of protein in them too. So just something else to think about from that regard.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I was, like I was doing the math on adding it up. I'm 195 pounds, so I think I look like I'm smaller, but I'm 195 pounds, so I need quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I was doing the math, and I was kind of getting right into around where I needed to be on most days, I think.
Can I ask what you hit on your numbers?
Well, I just did breakfast and lunch, and I felt like I was kind of in the 150 to 160 range. That's without even dinner, and dinner's pretty variable, but Joe will typically make something that has protein in it.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, you're probably in the right range. And again, that reference range for protein, it depends on body fat too. Like if you told me you weigh, not you, but if someone's like, I weigh 350 pounds, I mean, obviously they're not going to eat a gram per pound of body weight. That would be absurd. So it really depends on your body fat composition as well. There's a whole bunch of other things that go into it. For someone like yourself, if you're hitting around like 170 to 170 to 200, I think that's a very fair range.
Yeah, and I've been using that machine where you track your body fat and all that kind of stuff. And I started out at there kind of, God, I'm getting in February, it'll be 2 years that I've been there.
Yep.
And I started out at I think it was like 83 pounds of muscle and 24% body fat, and now the machine says 14.9% body fat and 96 or 97 pounds of muscle. So
Nice.
it seems like and I've stayed the exact same way.
Yeah, and that's a great point too. And I talk to people about that a lot of, body weight is one metric. There's the scale weight, there's the measurements you can take, like hip and thigh and waist measurements. There's progress pictures. There's so many other metrics, because you're a perfect example there of you put on muscle, you drop body fat. And the scales that do that are not the most accurate in terms of the gold standard, but they're reliable and they're consistent. It's like I'm reliably consistent that I'll miss the golf green most of the time. So
yeah,
the scales are the same. If you're using the same tool and you're getting the same readout, or like at least the same protocol, I think that's great because it's consistently reliable for you. It might not be a DEXA scan gold standard, but it's still something that's really high value for you to do regularly.
Totally agree. Totally agree. Yeah, to me, the 14.9 seems low, but and my son says it's full of shit. That's just no way because he likes to work out and he watches that stuff fairly closely. I said, hey man, that's what the machine says. I'm ripped.
I mean, dude, if you wanted to, it would be a great time after High Rocks and everything for you to maybe look at getting a DEXA scan. And DEXA scans are the gold standard for body comp. It measures your whole body, right versus left arm, left versus right leg, and all that jazz. I don't know if you had one before, but that's a
I
great
haven't.
tool.
No.
Great,
Like,
great.
where do I get that done?
Yeah, there's a spot in Toronto. If you ever go to Toronto, I can hook you up with a buddy of mine who runs them there. He runs a good price on them. It's like 150 for 2 scans. And that way you can do a scan now and then you can do a scan in like 6 months to a year. He's right downtown. I can always send you his info if you wanted. He's a nutrition guy, Cairo nutrition guy as well. And he's one of my best buds, but he's a genius when it comes to this kind of stuff. So he's a really good guy. I would feel happy sending you there.
Maybe I can get a few of the guys together and go down and book appointments around one another.
Yeah, for sure. Even if you're going down for like a fun event or something like that and you want to tack that on, there's a place in town you can get them done too. It's the Armory Sports Medicine at the Boardwalk. I've been there for DEXA scans myself, and I found that wasn't as accurate. I don't know if the machine wasn't calibrated or not, but and they were a little bit more expensive there. I think it was like $175 for 1 scan. So it just depends on what you're up to.
Okay.
But yeah, let me know, and I'm happy to flip that over to you if you want. But it sounds like at least your targets are in the right spot from a protein intake, and I think that'll only continue to get better. You're very thoughtful, good questions, and obviously you've made some huge changes in the last year with High Rocks and everything else. So I'm super stoked for that.
No, me too. It's been good. So it was a good session. I appreciate it. The pre stuff and morning things. I feel like Adam's helped me get a pretty good thing together.
Sweet.
It's the whole fat versus protein thing. I've just never even thought about it. So it's something I just have to look for and pay a bit more attention to.
It's tough because a lot of the good protein sources are high in fat too. So it's just a matter of being selective and finding what works for you. And it takes trial and error, but it sounds like you're on the right track.
Sounds good.
Yeah, man.
And Johanna was great last time she left you. She's been perfect ever since.
Perfect.
Thank you.
I'm super stoked to hear that. I'm the most stoked to hear that. That's for sure.
Yeah, me too.
Awesome.
She was miserable. She was miserable for God's sakes.
Her or you?
Her, and then I was.
I'm playing. All right, boss. I'm gonna run, but if you have any other questions, send me an email, and then I'm happy to always chat about this kind of stuff. Okay.
You got it, buddy. Thanks.
Thanks, guy. Bye.
Bye.